With over 5,000 years of history, China's bound to have a few ghosts waiting in the nooks and crannies. From the wiles of eunuchs in Beijing to deserted mansions in Shanghai, China's chock full of possible encounters of the spooky kind. Steel your nerves and prepare yourself to be haunted by legends and tales of China's paranormal and unexplained. Nestled on the banks of the Yangtze River, Fengdu Ghost City's spooky past dates back over 2,000 years. According to legend, two Eastern Han Dynasty Imperial's officials used Taoist practices to become immortal in the nearby Ming Mountain. Their names combined to mean King of Hell, and they dragged all local villages into the underworld. Today, the area is surrounded by temples and shrines dedicated to the underworld. Visitors can journey through the dark side of traditional Chinese culture, with the paintings and sculptures lining the temple walls, each depicting scenes of villagers being tortured for their sins. Perhaps not a place for a first date, then. The Forbidden City is a staple of any tour to China, but did you know that the Imperial Palace is also haunted, but its own array of poltergeists and ghosts? Built over 600 years ago during the Ming and Qing dynasties, the Imperial Palace saw more than its fair share of executions. Betrayal and disobedience were common, and anyone who went against the emperor's rule was easily removed. And it wasn't just the emperor creating Halloween-worthy tales. Jealous concubines, spiteful servants, and envious guards would often poison one another in the most devious of ways, while eunuchs went to any length to further their plot for power. When the palace was opened to the public in the late 1940s, staff began to notice strange phenomena within the imposing red gates. A woman dressed in white has often been heard sobbing as she strolls around the grounds, and as recently as 1995 guards have reported seeing a woman dressed all in black. The story is always the same: the woman turns to speak but has no face. Only black hair shrouds her pale visage. The Q brothers began their story as migrant workers in Shanghai. The pair made their fortune selling paint after World War I, and built identical mansions next to one another in the heart of the city. The ornate mansion grounds became home to the brothers' collection of exotic pets. Burmese tigers, peacocks, and even crocodiles roamed the gardens. At the height of their fame and notoriety, the Q brothers mysteriously disappeared. Their mansions fell into disrepair, and their gardens became a tangle of barren branches. Workers at the Four Seasons Hotel, just across the street from Q Mansion, have reported hearing and seeing strange animals roaming around the abandoned site. A number of the hotel's night guards have even received hospital treatment for mysterious animal bites. No one knows how the injuries occurred. Spooky. With eerie yellow lights casting shadows on dark empty verandas, the Sai Ying Pun Community Complex is one of the most chilling locales on High Street, Hong Kong. And it has a frightening history to match. Originally built in 1892 to house European nurses, Sai Ying Pun was, accordingly to urban legend, a common site of execution during World War II. After the war, the complex was turned into an insane asylum. The asylum was abandoned after two fires in 1961. Sounds similar to the plot of your favorite horror movie yet? In the dead of the night, it has been said that headless poltergeists and devilish figures roam the corridors of Sai Ying Pun Community Complex, the spirits of murdered victims and unsettled patients calling for revenge. Crossing the busy intersection of Xuanmen Outer Street and Luomashi Street in western Beijing, you may not be aware of the bloody history of this Qing Dynasty execution grounds. Those convicted of treason or serious crimes against their family were brought here to be tortured and executed by lingqi, known as death by 1,000 cuts. Executions of well-known convicts, with a list that includes a Ming emperor, a foreign dignitary, and those involved in the Boxer Rebellion, were open for public viewing. On the day of execution, which was scheduled promptly at 11:30 a.m., it was customary for the convicted to be carted into a wine shop for one final drink before facing their slow and painful death. Nowadays, people report having encountered the spirits of the dead when strolling around these haunted streets. Perhaps the most famous of all the luxury Canadian railway hotels is the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel, located in the town of Banff, Alberta. Initially marketed towards European sportsmen and tourists seeking a luxury wilderness experience, the aptly dubbed Castle of the Rockies was built at the behest of CPR President William Van Horn in 1888. Since its grand opening to the public, countless guests from all over the world, among them Marilyn Monroe, Queen Elizabeth II and Helen Keller, have checked into the hotel. According to a number of legends ostensibly born from the first-hand accounts of hotel patrons and staff, some of these guests never checked out. The Banff Springs Hotel is home to a number of ghost stories, all of which the hotel officially denies. At least one of the Banff Springs' supposed ghostly guests is said to haunt the missing room 873 on the 8th floor. According to hotel lore, a man, while staying with his wife and young daughter in room 873, murdered his family before committing suicide. As the story goes, the spirit of the young girl and, in some versions, the spirit of her mother never left the room. Guests who stayed in the room after the subsequent investigation and cleanup reported being awoken in the night by violent shrieks, and chambermaids who routinely cleaned the room would report finding bloody fingerprints on the bathroom mirror that could not be washed off. In response to the disturbing reports, hotel management sealed off the room. In spite of this, some say, the ghost, or ghosts, of room 873 still haunts the vicinity of the room to this day. Another of the permanent residents purported to walk the halls of the Banff Springs is the ghost of Sam Macaulay, or Macaulay, a beloved Scottish bellman who, before his death in the mid-late 1970s, swore to posthumously return to haunt his workplace. Incidents involving mysterious phantom lights, elevator doors opening and closing at random, and hotel guests being helped by an elderly Scottish bellman in an antiquated uniform have been attributed to Sam's ghost. Some other alleged hotel specters include a ghostly bartender who encourages inebriated patrons to go to bed, and a headless man who, despite his obvious handicap, somehow manages to play the bagpipes. Of all the ghost stories associated with the Banff Springs Hotel, perhaps the most iconic and well-known is the tale of the Phantom Bride. According to the legend, a young couple was married in Banff sometime in the early 1930s. It was arranged for their wedding banquet to be held in the Banff Springs Hotel, where the couple was renting the bridal suite. Before the beginning of the banquet, the newlywed bride ascended a marble staircase up to the Cascade Ballroom to join her husband, who was waiting at the top. As she did so, her wedding gown brushed against one of the candles that lined the curved staircase and caught fire. In the panic that ensued, the bride tripped over her wedding dress, fell down the flight of marble stairs, broke her neck and died. It is said that her ghost has haunted the hotel ever since. Over the years, various hotel patrons and staff have reported seeing a phantasmal bride dancing alone in the Cascade Ballroom, or ascending the marble staircase on which the tragic incident is rumored to have taken place. Others have heard strange noises emanating from the bridal suite when the room was not in use. True or not, the tale of the ghostly bride of the Banff Springs Hotel is surrounded in an aura of mystery and romance, and has become entrenched in the folklore of Canada's Rocky Mountains. Built in the 15th century, the castle has gone through many ages. Strategically located, it occupied during the 100 Years' War an essential defensive function. Under the old regime, this one finds itself as place of high justice. When comes the time of the revolution, the owner flees the country, giving the mayor of the commune of the time the happiness to make it his residence. It is under the Second Empire that the castle takes, under the leadership of a major new restoration, the aspect it still has today, a main building flanked by 3 round towers and a chapel, plus 2 independent towers that are next to the main building. Surrounded by a park of 10 hectares planted with trees bordering the VN, and full of historical treasures such as its frescoes, murals, richly decorated ceilings, mosaics, wood paneling and other medieval and neo-Gothic magnificences, the Castle of Fougerat is a must for lovers of architecture and history. Listed as a historic monument in 2010 by the DRAC, this majestic building overlooks a cliff of 38 meters, overlooking the valley of the VN. The castle welcomes visitors today as guest house. But this place does not only contain great moments of history. He is also known for several decades for the paranormal facts of which he would be the permanent theater. In the press, on television, again recently in the show Salat Lestarian's Diary Ardisson broadcast in October 2017 on CA channel, and of course on the internet, the mystery of these events are the buzz. From the most serious reports to investigations aimed at the most fervent believers in the paranormal, and who seek ghosts with much reinforcement of strange material, Faugerit has received all kinds of different treatment. While television has been producing reports for a long time, the story around Faugerit Castle has been renewed with YouTube in recent years. Not only because many documentaries and experiences have been put online by major professional media, but not only. Many French YouTubers, more or less known, have contributed to make this mysterious place known to an ever younger community. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the fact remains that many decisions made by the current owners of Chateau de Faugerit are more looks like a vast for-profit joke, rather than a real haunted place. The first is the choice to make the castle a guest house, able to accommodate many people both because of its size. Another point that suggests that all this would be joke, the decoration of the field. The rooms, of course, decorated down to the smallest detail to suggest that the old tenants understand the ghosts still live among the living. This goes from the perfumes diffused in the rooms, sometimes from the orange blossom or a perfume of gunpowder, to the old clothes placed on the edge of the bed. Add to this models, dolls here and there that do not all have a welcoming appearance, and amplifies the atmosphere horror film. However, this goes further since in one of the corridors of the castle, the owners have highlighted a wall of pictures of mine taken over time by various people, and to the attention of visitors. Finally, the owner, who ensures that the stagings at the castle are made to pay tribute to history, place and former tenants, and is not intended to frighten people, is however very active in its about posting new ghost stories on the castle's Facebook account. Beyond the many testimonials from current and former owners, simple tourists or many mediums and ghost hunters, there are many pictures circulating online, so-called truthful, understand not retouched, of captured mines in the castle of Faugerit. If one cannot deny or confirm here the existence of such facts, it is indisputable that the castle is loaded with stories all more terrifying than the others about the former owners having succeeded one another within its walls. The many rooms of the place would each house the spirit of a deceased. We present you all the most important, at the origin of many phenomena according to the testimonies. In the room known as the Usher One, killed in the 18th century with an axe in the sternum, people sleep poorly, says the owner. How to escape the disturbing eyes of the portraits that cover the walls. Not to mention the disturbing footsteps and other objects that move on their own, that would be frequent in this room according to multiple testimonies. 2 people even left with scratches. Notably a young woman who took off in the middle of the night, leaving behind her shoes. In the room known as the Night One, between 2 loopholes, old swords, a pistol and an old stretcher on which rest mortuary masks and a wooden leg. Always a way for current owners to revive the entities of Faugerit. One of the best known is without doubt Alice's room, who died at the age of 22 from a lightning kidney disease. She told us that she loved poetry, flowers and citrus. Murmurs the owner of Faugerit. Dried petals. The secretary at the foot of the bed. This last room welcomed a few years ago the daughter of the current owners, who after a single night, to develop the same disease that was once fatal to Alice, curable today, and this, while she herself is 22 years old. Troubling. In another room you will discover a dress hanging near the bed as if the room was still inhabited. Here we have whispers, caresses in the hair, says the owner. This is the room of the grandmother, a former nanny. The legend says she does not know she's dead and is waiting for her husband. Meanwhile she looks after the well-being of the people she meets. Today the castle of Faugerit serves as a guest house, reserved for people who are not afraid to live for a night with the wandering souls of the place. And given their overloaded schedule, easily booked a year in advance, it remains obvious that the recipe works. So real haunted house or orchestration with tourist aim, we let you judge for yourself, if you dare.